In 1991, trial lawyer Matt Chambers formed Confederate Motorcycles, seeking enlightened design through true American inspiration, a mission to finally fulfill the potential of the American V-twin. He embarked on a journey that produced 1,300 hand-built motorcycles, the likes of which the world had not seen before. In June 2016, he had the idea to acquire the Curtiss Motorcycles legacy brand and steer the company in an entirely new direction: electrification. Glenn Hammond Curtiss was the pioneer of the early motorcycle industry. He innovated, built and raced his own machines. On January the 24th, 1907, he became the fastest man on Earth on a motorcycle he designed and built, the only time this feat has ever been achieved on two wheels. He created the first American V-twin motorcycle that went on to become the icon of American motorcycle culture and was credited as the founder of the American aviation industry. In early 2022, the all-electric Curtiss 1 went into production.
10 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be invited to make a short TEDx presentation about American industrial and mechanical design. And at that point, I related back to our 1991 original founding. Of course, 1991 was a real low point for the American car and the American motorcycle. Now, 10 years hence, 10 years from the 2011 TED Talk, everything has come full circle. It's very clear that we now find ourselves in the age of enlightenment. You've got the all-new Cadillac Lyriq, which is an amazing design. Tesla, obviously the leader, Lucid, Rivian. It's just glorious to be a part of this renaissance for American industrial design, American innovation. And I would suggest that this new technological age has freed people from the pursuit of financial gain and illuminated within us the energy that's truly creative, which is the love of the work itself. So when I see a vehicle like the Model Y or the Lyriq, I immediately can identify that the people involved in that work were in love with the doing. And that's something that had gotten lost. It's all a part of a holistic way of creation where everyone is in their lane doing their part, and the end result is hugely beneficial for all of humanity, for the people that get to make the machines, the people that get to design the machines, and anyone that ever sees one going down the road.
Curtiss is built upon the foundation stone of innovation. Rather than just buying in off-the-shelf parts and bolting them together, Curtiss has designed a motorcycle from the drawing board that innovates in every detail. Driven by a pursuit of excellence to design components and a complete system that defies compromise, Curtiss has created a future machine that redefines the LEV.
JT Nesbitt is exactly the right person at exactly the right time to reinvent the light electric vehicle for the future. JT is really the king of the Curtiss 1. It's really his bike. He is more like the Glenn Hammond Curtiss innovative advanced design genius than anybody alive.
The one is just JT Nesbitt at his best in terms of where he's drawing his inspiration, in terms of his craftsmanship and his eye for detail when it comes to both styling and engineering.
From the very beginning, I never wanted to make an electric motorcycle. What I wanted to make was the greatest motorcycle that's ever been made. That's been the goal.
The judgment based upon proven experience that has gone into the creation of this motorcycle has been nigh on perfect.
I'm a fine arts major, and I'm classically trained in figure drawing, art history. I majored in sculpture. So I'm a huge Alexander Calder fan. And the work of Alexander Calder with his interplay of positive and negative shapes, has left such a deep impression upon me that it appears in the work. Alexander Calder invented the mobile, what we know as kinetic sculpture. All of those shapes and that language really translate into a two-wheeled device. The engineering always comes first. You have to have the right geometry for motorcycles to work. That's the beauty of design, and I think the highest form of art is actually engineering. We've had over 100 years of tribal knowledge figuring out how to make internal combustion engines work. The tribal knowledge associated with EVs is like 10 years. I personally have been greatly challenged to have to relearn a bunch of new stuff.
The Curtiss One defies built-in obsolescence. Other companies, while shouting loud about their green credentials, create electric motorcycles that are destined for landfill within 5 to 10 years. The batteries die and the machines are dead. But Curtiss have made a motorcycle to last for generations.
When Matt and I first got together on this project, one of his requirements was that this motorcycle never be obsolete. And the way that we accomplish that is by making the one part of the motorcycle that will need to be replaced, the battery, super modular. Old batteries are pushed out of the case and new batteries are pushed in. There's no part of the motorcycle that will ever wind up in a junkyard because it's built to last forever. It will last for hundreds of years.
There is literally no moving parts except the belt and the shaft. So what that tells you is that the motor can run 1,000,000 miles without failing. So why not build the whole motorcycle so it runs for a lifetime?
I see this motorcycle as something that I hope will be loved and cherished for as long as people are able to ride motorcycles. What you find most commonly in the EV motorcycle world are companies that produce motorcycles that use bought-in batteries. And all of those batteries are square because they're designed to be multi-purpose batteries that go in lots of different things. We knew that for this to be more motorcycle, it had to have its own battery. It's so sophisticated when you understand how all of these cells communicate with one another. It's really a work of art. It's a scary thing to do, but that's one of those things that separates us from every other motorcycle, EV motorcycle maker, is the amount of investment that we make in design so that every part is for this because it has to be. It has to be the best in the world.
So we went back to the first principles of designing a battery pack, and we started with the volume where we want to fit the battery pack, and we worked from there how the efficient ways to pack the battery in there and how to get the most range out of it.
We needed a lot of power density, and the only way to achieve that density is by designing our own pack and then placing the pack in the most optimum place on the motorcycle. It's not just in the lowest spot, but as close to the mass center as possible. You know, it's interesting, you see the hexagon pattern in nature a lot with the way rock cools with beehives. You ever notice like a honeycomb? A hexagon is one of the most efficient ways in nature to package things that are round.
There are many innovations on this bike, yes, but I think the one that I'm most proud of is our cooling system, the extrusion which acts as a radiator. It's a very radical design, so it works on a dielectric coolant. What it means is that the coolant doesn't conduct electricity. So you can basically dissolve all your electronics in it to cool down, and it takes the heat away. It also acts as the insulation for all the electronics, so it's much more safer than any other form of cooling. The center power axis is a genius way of designing the motorcycle powertrain. What it does is it uses the through axle in the motor as a swing arm pivot. So it centers and stabilizes the geometry of the motorcycle. So what it does is it keeps the motorcycle symmetric left and right.
There is one big fact about this bike. It is dead centered and symmetrical, and it changes everything. Bicycles are not balanced. So when you're riding a bike and you're doing this and the bike going all over the, two wheels are not balanced. Now, the One is not a motorcycle. It's an architectural platform for the future of Curtiss motorcycles for as far as the eye can see. And this Curtiss One and all of the Curtiss motorcycles, which will modularly use the platform architecture of the One, will have the most perfect state of balance.
From very early on in the project development cycle, the decisions were made to make everything really adjustable. And the ability to deliver something so special and unique to a client, it would literally be the only one like it in the world. But to be able to do that in a way that wasn't completely disruptive to production. The whole idea is to build a motorcycle that can be whatever you want it to be. It's not about me, it's about you. That's why the bike has adjustable rake. It totally transforms the way the motorcycle looks and the way it performs. That's why the motorcycle has adjustable trail, so that our rider can fine-tune the motorcycle just right for him or her. The interchangeable system of panels. So now I can give my client any color combination they can conceive of, in any material, any texture. The ergonomics of the motorcycle, to ensure that when a person rides this motorcycle, they're connected to it in a way that no other motorcycle has allowed a person to connect. I don't want to build something that's so technical and unapproachable that you need a bunch of special tools and a bunch of special knowledge. And with very little effort, you can actually experiment with the different settings till you find the one that you like. You need 3 tools: a 5mm hex key, a 13mm box end, and a 22mm normal wrench. It comes in the toolkit of the motorcycle. You can make adjustments on the side of the road. What we're offering our client is the opportunity to become a motorcycle chassis and suspension engineer. And I don't mean just adjusting spring preload and rebound and compression damping. I mean adjusting the geometry of the whole motorcycle. I'm really, really looking forward to working closely with our clients.
To me, what I'm hearing the motorcycle say is it wants to be a work of art. And Oscar Wilde said that art is the most intense form of individualization. So what that means is for this motorcycle to become a work of art for our customer, he's got to intensely personalize and individualize the motorcycle. Certainly, I would love nothing more than to be involved myself to make sure that what the customer was getting was as close to what his inner being is.
It's not like buying a motorcycle where you walk into the showroom floor and say, oh, I'll take that one, and you take it the way they make it. I'm looking forward to being challenged by a client who says, look, I've always had this texture in my mind. I've always had this color in my mind. I've always wanted a motorcycle that has a proportion that's like this or like this. Our concept with the One from the very beginning was to deliver a pure riding experience that's uncluttered by digital bric-a-brac. We don't have a connected screen. You can't check your text messages when you're riding it. It's disconnected because we want you connected to it and it alone. We don't want you connected to the outside world when you're riding a motorcycle. That's dangerous. This is an analog electric experience. I find it so encouraging that even 120 years later, after the birth of the motorcycle, there's still room for simple mechanical innovation. Our chassis with adjustable rake, adjustable trail, no one's ever done that before. There's no part on this motorcycle that only does one job. In other words, if you took every part of this motorcycle and laid it out on the floor, 75% of those parts are used more than once. And even when those parts are used more than once, those parts are doing multiple jobs. The engineering of the motorcycle is front-loaded. What that really means is minimalism. When I use the word minimalism, I'm not talking about an applique of styling. I'm talking about a philosophy of the least amount of parts doing the most amount of jobs. Designing a motorcycle this way, where these very few parts, there's only 175 machine parts on this whole bike, takes twice the work, maybe 3 times the work. I'm a big believer in being hands-on. You know, I don't really think that you can be a good designer if you're not intimately involved with every aspect. Knowing detail, understanding fasteners, understanding wiring, understanding bearings, the intimate understanding of all of these tiny little component pieces shapes the outcome. My training is in fine art, and this motorcycle began as charcoal on newsprint, then to a little bit more technical sketches, and then to solid model. And that was done with the help of our most excellent design engineer, Vinay Valaru. He, more than anyone else, is responsible for making all this happen.
Curtis is driven by philosophy rather than profit margins. A set of ethics and practices that guide every aspect of design, conception, and production. Principles that stand in defiance of the widespread corporate cynicism that prevails in the automotive industry.
Man, look, I'm a romantic. I'm not here trying to make money. I'm here trying to make a great motorcycle. Our mantra of best and finest really means that we will do our best and finest. We will not make a motorcycle for a client that isn't the best and finest we can make at the time we make it. And this applies to every nuance of the creative that went into this machine. And we're confident that it's the best and finest we're capable of. Now we have 7 simple words: authenticity rules, presence leads, rider bliss follows. This means that the most critical aspect of the company is that we just tell the truth, that everything is honest. Curtis Enterprise culture is defined by every man a king, as originally declared by Huey P. Long. And what this means for us is no one tells and no one is told. Presence leads within Curtis, so it's the actions and inactions and the judgment of each one of us and how we integrate with one another is the way in this sustainable culture that we lead one another and make one another better.
What Matt has done is he's created a space where ideas are not forbidden, they're encouraged. Now, that being said, there's also a dialectic that happens after those ideas come about where Matt challenges me. And a lot of the ideas that I've had early on in this project, which I thought were really wonderful, got rejected. It's in that very special creative space that Matt has created with this project. All of the scary decisions that were made on this motorcycle, we worked it out internally. And there's no chance that within a corporate structure, any of these ideas would have been able to be explored. I think this is a playground to come up with inventions, and sometimes they're simple mechanical inventions.
I got to compliment Ray Dalio in his book on principles. What Ray said is that the key to success, in his view, is very simple, is that you follow what you love, and you sync that to what is true about yourself. But I spent a lot of time in a rabbit hole. I was wanting to portray a story with the motorcycle. And I used to say things like, the toughest fight you will ever fight is the fight to be nobody but yourself in a world trying to make you anybody else. This is a cornerstone, the E.E. Cummings quote. It's a story about life is tough. I think that whole line of thinking for me is not right. The world actually is a loving place, and everything is happening for the right reason. That's the source. The source is to get in the rhythm and the flow of change that is inevitable, and to let go of any fear that that change isn't happening to you to make you better. Because I'm going to get to relearn and rethink the way I ride. It's better in every way. It's a 180, and it is way better. Being on an LEV that's sexy, beautiful, proportionate, smooth, easy, fast, fun, cool. Both cool looking and cool to the touch. What does it mean to me? It's like a reborn in a best way you could possibly imagine. Well, here we are this morning, Lower Ninth Ward on the levee of the Mississippi River, scene of one of the great environmental tragedies in history. It's impactful to be here this morning for us, and it really illuminates and clarifies our Better Way idea with the Curtis One, wanting to make a difference, doing no harm. This dream of one life, one bike, making a forever best and finest motorcycle, but also making a motorcycle that makes the world a better place. Interestingly, by making the gentlemanly motorcycle that does no harm, makes no noise, disturbs nobody, it also makes the experience more sublime and more optimizing. And this morning, speaking for myself, it's just been a glorious moment, overlooking what was 16 years ago the site of one of the great environmental disasters of our time. All of this area was entirely and completely immersed in that great flood. As you may know, we were deeply affected by Katrina. Our building was destroyed. Our insurance company went out of business, as so many did, and we lost our home. And it was the moment that really defines the first principle of Curtis, which is that everything happens for the right reason. It validates that when you come from the perspective of it's all going to be good in the end, and you firmly persist with that, and the end result is this motorcycle, which could only have come from the creative energy that views our spirit from this great city and our history, having lived through all of our wonderful neighbors, flooded out, 2,000 deaths in this part of the city alone. We just don't want that to have been in vain. The big idea here that is we can be environmentally friendly in the extreme and create more fun, more desire, a better future, a better way for humanity.
We're not making something look cool just for it to look cool. We're not building this brand just to build this brand. Everything has a purpose, and when everything has a purpose, it sets the bar and it gives you something to strive for. Maybe it makes it a little more challenging at the start, but you find that the whole team really starts pouring more passion into a project.
Tell me what the top light electric vehicle maker is. Tell me what the top battery electric motorcycle brand is in the world. And the response has been, not only do I not know which one's the best, I can't name any of them. With Curtis, a first principle originalist legacy maker, a technology company, an innovation company, coming into the light electric vehicle market where there is no one else. But I think I speak for the whole team. If we weren't going to do this in an originalist way, then I don't believe we would be following our heart. I don't believe the inspiration would be right. I don't think the energy would flow. I don't think we would be on cadence, which we are. And I don't think you could have an outcome like the one.
In 1991, Matt closed his law firm and set up Confederate Motorcycles, creating an unbroken lineage that 30 years later has produced the Curtis One, a life journey built on a mission to change.
I met Matt at the courthouse, and we've been together since I was 25. I'm 64 now, so it's been a roller coaster ride. You have your good times and your bad, but at the end of the day, I think like I told Alan Cathcart one time, my tombstone can say, it's been a wild ride and I've been incredibly loved by a wonderful man. He had a bike when I met him, and at the time, he was getting a different bike almost every year at that point. He would go from one extreme to the other.
I would usually keep like a Harley and some form of Japanese high-performance motorcycle. When Pam and I first started dating, we would ride tandem. She's the best tandem motorcycle rider I've ever had. I actually could ride faster with her on the back. She gave me so much confidence. And we would take the two bikes out, and she would give me this little nudge in the back when she was ready for me to do, kind of do the thing that we would do. And she didn't understand that the Harley couldn't do anything, that it just made a lot of noise. This experience illuminated for me the possibility of what it would be like to bring real American road bike presence and what I felt was real American road bike performance to the customer. I knew when I got into it that I was going to have to reinvent the platform architecture of the American V-twin. So I went on this mission to make it the way it should be made.
I would say our son was about 3 months old, and he came in about 2 o'clock one morning and he said, "That's it, I'm tired of practicing law, I'm going to the motorcycle industry." And I'm glad we talked about it, and that was it. He incorporated the company very soon after that, because I always remember it was James's second birthday party we were having in the backyard, and after it was over, he took his car and drove to San Francisco to start the work on it then. He was so happy and so into it, so it was fun to watch. I mean, when you're practicing law, it's cut and dried, it's nothing to get excited about, but everyone was very happy and everyone loved the bike. It was exciting.
We brought the bike downtown to a little motor show they were having at the Assembly Center downtown Baton Rouge. And that's when I first met JT. That's where this really strong bond began between me and him, because I know he looked at that and he thought, man, this makes infinite good sense. And I know he looked at it and said, wow, this certainly cures a lot of things that ail the American V-twin motorcycle riding experience. And I immediately hired him, which was the smartest hire ever. He took the Generation 1 Hellcat and he created the best ICE V-twin American motorcycle in history. He fixed everything. And then we went to work on a motorcycle that I believe has a lot to do with the glorious outcome of the One. That motorcycle was dubbed the sexiest motorcycle ever. The Wraith changed the way motoring on two wheels looks. And then Hurricane Katrina knocked our factory down here in New Orleans.
Those kind of things happen all the time, and it's an act of God, and you just have to move forward. It's like he's got a force behind him for some reason. With everything that has happened, there's always been a path forward. It must be his destiny, because it is always seen when a roadblock is, you just veer off the other direction and something has worked.
I didn't change what I was going to do, so I just soldiered on.
I was a design student in Detroit, studying automotive design. And primarily what drew me to wanting to work with Matt was the work he had done specifically with JT, actually.
Our other designer left, and it just so happened that Jordan sent his resume in via email within days. So Matt called him, they met, they clicked, and they've been working extremely close ever since.
Jordan makes me. I'm nothing without him. He's so good for Curtis.
They seem to maybe thrive off of each other a little bit.
We had just finished making a V-twin. For me, it was the ultimate badass motorcycle. We put everything we had into making the ultimate beast.
I walked into the building and told me to start sketching motorcycles, and I think I did 200 sketches of motorcycles in my first week with Matt, and we just started exploring all kinds of stuff, primarily IC to start. We were designing around every IC engine that we could have brought in at the time. Boxer engines, 90-degree V-twins, 45-degree V-twins, inline fours, you name it. We came up with some semi-interesting stuff, but we spent 4 or 5 months doing that maybe, and nothing got us excited.
And it was the end of an era. There's nowhere to go.
I think his feeling was he had taken the designs as far as he could, working with what he had to, and that the world was changing.
How can we create something that is way better than what we've created in the past? And in the midst of all of this, I got this crazy idea, and on a whim, I just said, let's see if we can get the trademark to the Curtis Legacy brand.
He said, I love this name, I love what the man stood for, and we applied for it, and quite frankly, that was the fastest trademark we'd ever received.
I asked Matt if he had ever done anything with electric. I was very surprised when he said, yes, we've explored it before. And he started telling me about some of the work he and Pierre Terblanche did. And it got me excited, and we started the sketch program that I was on over again. And we probably did another couple thousand sketches, now dreaming about what we might do if we did do an EV motorcycle. It was clear to us pretty quickly that this was definitely worth exploring. It took us some time to, make the decision that we were going to go all in. And so we sold the ICE company, and we started fresh. It's a big decision to go all in on something new and have no idea if it's going to work. But he did it in the 90s when he started Confederate. Once he had come to the conclusion in his head that going all electric is the way to go, it was like a light switch. He became all in on that. And initially it did lead us to opening a dialogue with Zero Motorcycles, who was really the most established electric motorcycle maker at the time. Our first 3 physical prototypes, the Zeus concept prototype of 2018, was based on Zero technology, and we had used the project to sort of do a soft launch of the brand in 2018 at the Quail Motorcycle Gathering. The motorcycle won Most Innovative Motorcycle of the Year. It was a great technology, and it was validated, which is a huge thing. It just didn't feel Curtis to us. We felt like we could find something better.
So I'm basically from India, where I did my undergrad in mechanical engineering. I wanted to pursue my higher studies in aerospace engineering, so I immigrated to US where I could get the best education. My family supported me a lot. They put all their life savings towards my education. When I finished my master's, I had a few things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to build something really interesting, and I wanted to do something in sustainable industry. And what really pulled me towards Curtis is Matt's decision to quit ICE completely and move towards sustainability.
Vinay showed up in our email inbox. It was perfect timing sort of thing.
The interview mostly went about exchanging ideas of what Matt wants to do and what I can do to help him achieve that.
I really enjoyed my first conversation with Vinay.
And after that conversation, I think Jordan gave a go-ahead to Matt, and then they offered me the job that evening.
I mean, he's done nothing but amaze me. He's a sponge when it comes to accumulating and absorbing knowledge and information. Vinay's kind of like our lucky charm, I feel.
One of the luckiest things was getting JT to join back up with us, because me and JT we're like red beans and rice. When we get together, it's on. It's going to be good.
Curtis are unorthodox and defy convention. Curtis is not a corporation. It's a small group of visionaries, evangelists who mix experience and youth to create and innovate. Matt has assembled a team that he believes can deliver the Curtis mission.
We work together really well. And so I think we do challenge each other sometimes in terms of the way something should look or what we should prioritize with a certain aspect of a design. but I think that only helps the end result.
We are a small team. It's a handful of people who is working on this motorcycle. And since it's so small, things happen really fast. And the one thing that helps is having a team that has decades of experience and can really guide you through the design process. My relationship with JT more than anything has been a teacher and a student experience. He has been patient in letting me learn how motorcycles behave, the dynamics of it, and how to design a part or an assembly that's functional and also looks beautiful.
Another key player in this project has been Brian Coyle at Fast Radius, who have been so good to me and to Matt and to this project. They really believe in it.
From the outset, we were going to lean heavily on scale manufacturing from an outside source. We spent a lot of energy on due diligence, and we found this gentleman. And I can't tell you how invaluable he has been and how his service to Curtis has been uncanny in his ability to project the future and always come in on time, always tell it exactly like it is, always make parts that are amazing in terms of quality.
So we met up in early 2019. We had our first discussion, and from that, I had a great interest in Curtis and saw the legs on this company, and really wanted to get involved and get a partnership going. We discussed what we can do with CNC machining and some of the other technologies that we've utilized now. One of the needs that you addressed very quickly was how you needed help getting through the prototype stages quickly and cost effectively, and then being able to move into production smoothly. And that is what Fast Radius has really built their entire business plan on, is being that end-to-end supplier from product development, prototype, into production. And that is where the fit between Curtis and Fast Radius was so strong, that we were able to do the prototypes at the production cost, give you guys a couple of rounds of design iteration on a very complex machine, and then being able to do that very quickly. It's really an honor to make these beautiful parts. A lot of CNC machining parts is making dishwasher spray arms or things like that. So I personally get very excited about making beautiful motorcycles, and it's very exciting to be able to do production quality in a low quantity and then scale that immediately. There's a lot of difficulty in doing low run work like that for such a small thing, but because we know that moving forward we have an amazing partnership and certainly an amazing product that we're very excited to be a part of.
I'm a small B businessman. I don't like to have a lot of people. I like to keep it simple and to have true believers on the team that love with all they've got what we're doing and that are honestly real gifted at it. And that's what we have. We got the dream team.
Matt's an extremely open-minded, creative individual, and so he's always willing to listen to any idea. We've spent several years now designing and developing the one, but really laying the foundation for a company that we hope will stand the test of time. If the people enjoy working here and like working here, they're going to be working at their highest level, which is really what's going to create a sustainable company and a strong foundation.
This is a production motorcycle. The first ones are going to be built here in New Orleans. I will be building the first probably 50 or so, overseeing everything to make sure that it's correct and make sure that it's perfect. We've got it right. I mean, when you ride the motorcycle, it rides fantastic. The bike is alive, it breathes, the suspension is fantastic. I'm so happy with all of the geometry on this motorcycle. It's really good. It's better than I expected it to be.
Last night, riding around these beautiful streets of New Orleans, which I love so much, and this really charming lady was following me, and I pulled over to make a U-turn, and she said, no, come on in front of me. And when I did, she rolled down a window and she said, "That is so beautiful." Well, thank you very much. Something I've never heard. I've had people look at bikes we made and talk about them in very positive ways, but never like that.
When I ride this motorcycle, I feel like I'm riding the one.
Riding this motorcycle is like nothing out there. Nobody told us we couldn't, so we made the best motorcycle possible.
It's so easy to ride. It's so lovely, it's so light, it's so delicate. You can put the motorcycle wherever you want it to be, and you can do it naturally, intuitively, and all the noise of the vibration and actual noise of the engine and all the heat, that's all gone. And one of the things that happens when you take away the vibration, the heat, is that you start noticing what the chassis is actually doing. You're not paying attention to that section of your mind that's been dedicated to keeping your engine alive, i.e. your clutch and your throttle. All of that space that has previously been dedicated to you actually serving an internal combustion engine is now gone. Now the motorcycle is dedicated to serving you, and that part of your brain that used to be occupied now is free, so everything else matters more. Ergonomics, suspension matter more.
You feel that, and it's easy, and it's light, and it's filled with sublime fidelity. All the information is exceedingly precise and easy to comprehend and to understand. It's incredibly smooth.
That's the beauty of it, is when you forget it's new and it feels natural. That's when you know you've got a great design. I figured out everything I needed to know about the bike within half a block, and it was like, yeah, oh yeah, of course, I got it.
In 2050, what do I think? I would bet on Curtis being the #1 motorcycle brand, and I think that'll be a position we'll be able to sustain. So I couldn't be more confident long term, and at the same time I couldn't be more focused on the very first customer's bike and how perfect that needs to be. I mean, it absolutely needs to be 100%.